Here's a ranked match as the Hammer Willbender. Yes, I'm using a hammer. Recently they've buffed the Radiant Straight Line on Guardian, so now you can use the Valkyrie Amulet. They increased the crit chance from the Grandmaster, so now you've got 40% crit chance there. So if you take Radiance and Valor, you have a lot of Fury and Resolution. That gives you like 60% crit chance there. And then you get a little bit more crit chance from the Rune of the Eagle, and then you can get a little bit more from burning enemies from the Radiant Straight Line as well, and you can pretty much get the Valkyrie Amulet and still do a lot of crit damage. So not only would that work for the Greatsword build, but I also think that it works out for the Hammer build now, because the Hammer has a lot of combos to it. Like the Hammer 4 usually knocks them away from you, but with Willbender, you can combo that by knocking them away and then porting on them with the F3, or because the Hammer 2 is kind of slow and hard to land if you're not already on top of the enemy, you can bait out the first dodge with like your F1 and then kind of like double that up. So if they dodge your F1, then they get hit by the Hammer 2 right after. So the Hammer really works well with the Willbender, surprisingly, because you would think Willbender wants to be very mobile, so you don't want a slow weapon, but really it's that the mobility of Willbender makes up for the weaknesses of the Hammer. So I would run this build with the Greatsword 2, but this is just going to be showing off the Hammer version, and the only differences in the build is that you take the Intelligence Sigil on the Hammer, and you would probably take like an Energy Sigil on the Greatsword. So yeah, pretty much the same thing. But in this match, I will be looking for the kill on their Necro here. I see that they have a Tempest, so they have a bit of support on their team. I'm getting focused though by a Necro and a Ranger, so I'm trying to play a little bit safely here. I go in for the Hammer 5 into JI combo, which is a really good combo because it allows you to lock your opponents in. That animation of the Ring of Warding skill is pretty clunky, but when you Judge's Intervention it, you trap them very easily without much of a tell. So it's really good for locking them in, and then from there you can land a lot of your other abilities that do damage, like your F1 or your Sword 4. So I think it really works well. I'm going to be heading into home here now, and I kind of just throw out my Immobilize there, which was not the best use of that. But now we're going to be chasing with my ports, saving those for when the Mesmer uses their port. I'm going to use my port. Go for the Immobilize there. It did like 4k damage, which isn't bad. So yeah, the damage is good. The Ring of Warding there is going to be nice, but they go in stealth and I think they break out of it. But I'm able to stay on top of them with my sword. Essentially, yeah, you have to take sword. I think you can't go Greatsword and Hammer. I think that's probably not going to work out. But yeah, we get a nice, you can see there, 4.7k Hammer 3. It's obviously a light armor class, but you do quite a bit of damage now. So I'm going to head into the buff area because that's coming up now. I'm going to cap that, but we're losing kind of all of our caps. We're all kind of dying. So it's kind of unfortunate that we're not going to get any value off of the buff here. But I'm going to head back into home anyways and see what happened over there. It looks like their Soul Beast over here is capping the node. I'm going to stand on the node so they don't immediately cap it. But I really don't want to be 1v1ing necessarily because it's not really my role. This is more of a roamer build. I want to be looking for kills, not trying to kill players who can, stall out kills and waste my time. So I'm leaving this and heading towards mid. But their Tempest is now here as well. They've already +1 my fight, which made it kind of like a good reason for me to leave already. But now they're chasing me, and I don't really know where to go because if I go for the... Yeah, I'm going to try to create some distance here, actually, and jump on their Mesmer. See if we can get the kill before their Tempest can support them. I go in, yeah, and they've got a lot of CCs because the Tempest is supporting them. So I've got to be careful. I land a good 6,000 damage on the Hammer 2 there, but my teammate is already down and get a nice F1 there as well, and my Ring of Warding We get the down with more damage, and I'm trying to cleave with my sword 4 on the down body, but we actually do get a lot of help from our team here. They all rotate in, and while we are going to win this fight, we don't really have side nodes because our team comp is kind of lacking in a dedicated duelist. Though we do have a soul beast, I'm not really sure what they're running. So I'm being careful here. I know that their Sikkim soul beast is on me. See, my Necro's in the down state there, so I can't do anything about that. So I just go for the decap on far while I wait for some cooldowns. And I really don't want to be taking these fights because I'm low on cooldown. So I'm going to just leave and go to mid, see if I can get another kill there. The target is definitely their Reaper. It's a good target always. So I just immediately poured in with my Judge's Intervention. But yeah, they're getting supported now by the Tempest, so I have to back off. And I use some of my cooldowns there just to resustain, prevent those conditions from killing me. And I'm just going to wait for some of my cooldowns before I go back in. But the fight has not improved for us at all, so I have to leave completely. Now I'm using the mobility of my virtues to leave, and the buffs are coming up soon at 8:30, but I do see that my team is really going hard on their Necro, and I have to really help them win this, because if we lose this fight, it won't matter if we get the buffs, because then we'll just lose the nodes immediately. So I have to stay here, finish off that kill, and then I can head towards the bottom. Now our Necro is at the bottom, I see, so I'm going to leave them to get that while I get the top buff, and hopefully I don't get stalled here because I really do need to help my Necro at the bottom buff. My Ranger also falls down, and we're kind of in a weird situation because if I go down bottom, we're probably investing too much there. So I leave, go for far. Now their Ranger comes in, and this is probably not a good 1v1 for me, but I'm going to take it anyways because it feels like our team lacks a side noder. And while this is not a good idea for me to side node, sometimes you have to make hard decisions. So I come in and just spamming out some of my blinds, you know, sword 2, F1, they're all blinds that help me to trade. I go for a Judge's Intervention into my Mighty Blow, hammer 2, and get a decent amount of damage, but the pet is really pressuring me, so I'm on a clock here pretty much. I have to do damage to the Ranger or the pet's just going to do damage to me, so I'm playing very aggressively. They go off the node and try to resustain, so I'm just going for the decap because it gets me better value off of this fight. They do dodge my hammer 3, so that allows me to get my hammer 2 right after, and even though my F1 doesn't crit, landing it is pretty nice. I do a Judge's Intervention into my hammer 2 as well, and now that's 2 hammer 2s in a row that have landed. So we actually get the kill on the soul beast here, but we have lost the bottom buff. So unfortunately, I can get the decap on far and probably the full cap, but we've pretty much lost everything else. So I'm gonna full cap this actually, and I know that their Ranger is respawning, and if I stay at far, then I'll be stuck in another 1v1 with the Ranger. So I have to really decide. I mean, I'm getting decent results at far, but also my team might need me. So I have to, you know, decide whether I want to stay at far and take this sort of bad matchup, because if I get +1, it could be really bad. I do land a really nice Immobilize there with my Judge's Intervention, but they interrupted my F3, which is kind of an issue with the setup that I have here, because the F3, if you don't run virtues, you don't have stability. So you can actually get interrupted pretty easily on your F3 if you're like porting into a CC, because you don't get the stability until a little bit later into the animation. So you do have to be really mindful of when you use that F3, and sometimes you might have to use it off to the side. So like right there, it's really good to use it because I used it right on top of the pet, and it allows me to get value off of the passive triggering from hitting the pet and the Ranger at the same time. So it was a pretty good use of the F3. And the Ranger is pretty much out of dodges now, so we're able to stick to them and get the kill. I mean, that's the main issue that Guardians have with fighting Rangers, is that the Rangers disengage before the Guardian can get the kill. But with Willbender and the hammer CCs, I was able to secure the kill after they had ran out of all of their dodges and disengages because I have enough answers. So now we have to head into far because their Tempest is trying to decap me. Do a nice Judges and Judges Intervention is like the key playmaking ability on this build. Your sword 5 as well as an immobilize, and then all the CCs on hammer as well are really good for setting up your combos. So you really want to be not using that necessarily all the time to use to travel around the map, because you know it's key for landing your abilities, but sometimes you have to do it. So at this point we've actually got control of the map, and it kind of just worked out for me to play a duelist role for my team. That's what they needed. But now their Reaper is heading in here, and I have to be a little bit careful with a Reaper because they can do a lot of damage, but so can I. I land my sword 5 to immobilize, but they're in Shroud now, so I'm trying to back off while they're in Shroud, but then I immediately go back on them when they go out of Shroud. I landed a hammer 2 for 8k, and my teammate +1s me, and we get the kill. So at this point, it's pretty much a one match. We've got all the nodes pretty much, and there's only 50 points left. So if you like this kind of content, then like the video, subscribe for more, and I will see you all in the next one.